different areas, and they all have different size clients and different kinds of clients. So if it's okay, Diego, I'd like to just share some of the information from the call.
Absolutely.
Okay, so one of the first things that was mentioned that there's a lot of talk about right now is forbearance. And forbearance meaning, are we going to put off paying of the rent for people that request us to do so? What are we going to do in regards to late fees? Should we put those late payments into a contract for them to pay us over the remainder of the lease term? Should we extend lease terms? And I'll tell you, a lot of people threw around ideas about this, and everybody was kind of on a different page. I kind of went away from that phone call thinking, well, this is something that we may have to consider in light of everything that's going on. But since I am a realtor too, I have a broker that's licensed here in Texas. So as soon as I got off the phone with that gentleman, with the call, my next thoughts were, okay, do I need to call my real estate attorney, which we have one here that I keep on retainer, and what should we do? Should we start putting together contracts to forbear some of these expenses? And I'm glad I called my broker, because the advice he gave me, which I tend to agree with, is that we want to be sensitive to people's needs. We want to listen, but we have to be very careful about adjusting our leases, how we do it. We're all in different states. In Texas, we use a TAR form. And then there's just the practicality of that. If we're going to do forbearance, how long do we do it? I think the thought sometimes is, okay, if you owe me $1,000, there's a chance you'll pay me back. If you owe me $2,000 over 2 months, you may mean well, but that chance of recovering all that money kind of lessens as we go on. And so what I did was I settled on an approach that we're going to do with our tenants. And to let you know, I'm under 50 doors right now. All of them are single family homes. I'm not working with apartments or anything like that. But and I'll tell you this, I've not had to file a late fee or charge a late fee, which I waived since last summer. So I think that's been a combination of, we've done, good screening, but also we've just been fortunate. So, some of you may be in a situation to where you have some renters that have been quite difficult. But I would say that, just kind of keeping these guidelines in mind, what we're going to do, what we've decided is, the first thing that I did was about 2 weeks ago, I communicated with all our tenants, and I sent out the first information that I had about this stimulus package that was passed. And since then, what I've been doing is I've been sharing information on unemployment. I've been sharing information about, when they may get their checks, because what I'm trying to do is just say, hey, look, there are resources available out there. And by doing that, I'm trying to kind of head off and give them some lead time on when, rents they come up with it. And, I've gotten some feedback from that. Some individuals have said thank you. Some of them I've heard nothing from. I have had some situations. I've had one so far on Friday night that contacted me, and the tenant stated that she may have trouble paying the rent. And that's a difficult conversation to have. And what I am doing, and like I said, it's you run your business how you want to, but my overall concern for our owners right now is cash flow. I used to work in a business where, cash flow was a concern in the restaurant industry. And you could have a lot of money on paper with equity, but you have a lot of money that comes due. So what I'm trying to do is put our owners first, but also be sensitive to our client customers that are tenants. But what I'm trying to do is just make sure that we are keeping the cash flow moving, because that is critical at this time. And when I'm looking at some of the things that are coming down the pike for tenants, as far as, we're going to get the stimulus package. It's looking like, $2,400 per household if you're making under $150,000, another $500 for children. Unemployment right now is just, what they're doing is stuff that's never been done before. So I think that, for people to get started on keeping the cash moving, you have to be proactive. And then the individual that contacted me about not paying rent, I was careful not to promise anything. I just stated that, here are some resources, do what you can, and get back to me later. I appreciate them reaching out, but I don't want to make any promises right now. I just want to kind of monitor the situation as we go. That being said, I have a plan of what we are going to do now. And the way our business works is we represent our owners, But anytime we're going to have to do something like this and the rent doesn't come in, we're going to contact the owner right away. We're going to talk to the tenant and we're going to say, this is the situation. And then we're going to give advice. Ultimately, they tell us what to do. But my advice is going to be this. I think we can be comfortable on our end, if the owner is, of waiving rent payments for the first, rent late payments, at least for the first month that this happens. And I'm doing this mostly because I'm seeing that the Texas Apartment Association, they're doing this sort of thing. I think from the standpoint of optics, it looks good if you have to go on to an eviction later on, that you've taken that step. I would say that we are going to document that. So if someone is late, we're not going to hound them, but we're going to, when they do pay it, even before that, we're going to put it in writing that we waived your late statement this month. The next course of action may be, we may have some people in April that are unable to pay rent. And that could be from a cash flow shortage. The stimulus checks haven't gotten there yet. Unemployment goes to the state. We're not there. I'm looking at the possibility of maybe doing 1 month's forbearance. That means basically waiving, not waiving, but letting 1 month of rent be tacked on to the remainder of the lease. And that if you're going to do that, the important part of that is making sure that, with these TAR documents, that realtors are the ones and lawyers are the ones that are supposed to handle these documents. You're not really supposed to use a document like that if you're not a realtor or a lawyer. So if you're not using a property manager and you don't have a lawyer, maybe get with your realtor that signed your lease in what I would do is a lease modification, which you can do within TAR. And that's going to be our approach if we do that. But I'm real steadfast in not extending the lease. That's going to be my advice not to do that. We're just going to add the difference to the remaining months. And then when March comes along or May comes along, it's going to be a little more difficult. We're not going to keep doing that unless the owner really wants to do that, which is not something that I would advise. Because right now it's important to make sure that the cash is moving. A lot of these, individuals are going to be in situations to where they have to pay. The owners are going to have to pay banks. And if you have an FHA loan, they're starting to talk a little bit about no evictions, no, maybe some forbearance up to 12 months. I know most investors aren't doing FHA loans, but the point is I'm not seeing anything with the evictions or anything about just forgiving debt. So that money's going to come due at some point. So I think it's very important that even as owners that you go on there and try to find resources that you would use. I've already spoken to my CPA this morning about, how the stimulus is going to work, when we're going to get paid, that sort of thing, and just, be really careful. And another thing that we're doing is we're also making sure that we are re-signing leases if we have good tenants. So I signed 2 this past weekend. Tenant had never had a problem with being paid. We didn't really go up on the rent, but the owners felt, and I did too, that it would be better to have a lease in place than to see what's going to happen over the next, couple months and be out there trying to find a tenant. And I think to the lenders, it also looks better to have a tenant in the property. So we've been able to kind of take advantage of some downtime and do that. We're continuing to show. I had a house this week that came off the market and we signed a lease on. I'm still getting calls for people that are looking for homes. So I don't think that has died down completely. We just have to be careful with, using video, showing homes remotely if we can. And then maintenance, we're only doing essential maintenance right now. Those are all important things for us.
Okay.
Diego, do you want to pause for questions right now, or do you want me to go on?
No, absolutely. We'll go ahead and pause for some questions. And absolutely, I think what the most important thing that I could tell you I got out of that is it's being treated as a case by case, obviously, with the relationships that, the tenant has with the renter. But most importantly, know that that liability, you still have to address the side of debt servicing or paying that responsibility to the bank. I always believe we're in the people business first and foremost. So I believe there's always going to be a good result with that. So I'm going to ask some questions here, and Troy, go ahead and step in and answer those. We have a gentleman by the name of David Long. He wrote, with the virus impacting all facets of real estate, what are the immediate reliefs and protections to owners and investors? Now, you did state in your comment that still meet the payments, try to get the debt servicing, try to get that to the bank. But as the owners of properties, like rental properties, let's say, or that I own, what are certain protections that we have? Does that make sense? Are you guys foreseeing anything? Are you seeing that, we're putting a lot of things in deferment, but is there overall a protection?
To my knowledge, I'm not seeing that yet. I know that there's a lot of deferment right now. I know that, we talked about the FHA loans where they're talking about forbearance for 12 months, but I know a lot of investors don't really have those kind of loans. And that bill they passed on Friday was over 800 pages. My advice to everyone is just keep going to reputable news sources and reading about what's going on with those things. I would also say when it comes to your lender, because you may have a private lender, now's the time, even if you don't think you're going to have a need to speak to that lender, go ahead and catch up with your lender. Find out what's available should something happen. It's all about planning your cash flow. And basically, even if you just do it on a piece of paper, write out, for my property, this is what's coming in, this is what's coming out, this is how I can time that, and just kind of stay abreast of that. If you're paying for some of your own utilities, sometimes they're doing forbearance on utilities in certain areas I've seen. But I think the point is really just to have that conversation early. And then even though, and this stuff applies for everybody, if you're looking at your the stimulus package to where everybody's going to get a certain amount of money, if they're within the threshold, there's issues with that I've already read to where, there might be someone who did really well in 2018, but not as well in 2019. And they look like they're not going to get it because their taxes are going by their adjusted gross income in 18 and they haven't filed yet for 19. So you may be in a situation where you want to go ahead and make sure that you file. But I would definitely understand that, because I think from what I gather, that's going to be a direct deposit in everybody's account within the next 3 weeks. And, whatever you use those funds for, that's very helpful. For those people that are even, with this unemployment thing, you have situations like my wife does part-time travel agency things. Well, now they're extending unemployment to people that are independent contractors. Texas, I know from working in fast food, we even have something called partial unemployment for people that have cut back. So my next thing would be to tell people is, you get all these federal aid for unemployment, but you have to register through your state. Don't feel bad about doing that. I mean, the government's trying to stimulate our economy by giving us these funds so that we can get things moving again. So look at that. And I think something may come for people with loans and things of that nature for real estate specifically, but we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer for that, I believe.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that answer there. David Gutierrez asked this question. What is, in your opinion, or you as a property management business owner, what the application process and screening criteria, has that changed, or do you foresee that changing for new tenants? Kind of a preemptive, what happens or what game plan do you have if I rent for you and for 6 months, but in 3 months we're now having to revisit the non-payment or things like that? Because they may be in an essential job and then that may move to a non-essential. Does that make sense?
I think that's a good question. We've already kind of tackled that a little bit over this past weekend. I leased a home, and when I lease a home, and this is why it's important, I say to use a realtor. We do listings too. Use a property manager. I know now is not the time really you want to save money, but there's a lot of things coming up where you really want to use experts in the field. And if you haven't a property manager already, speak with that person, communicate. And I'll give you an example. This weekend, we had one where the tenant came in and there were some issues. So when we screen, we have a certain criteria that we show everybody because we want to be compliant with federal housing. And I also show that criteria with every owner that comes on too. And we agree, is this what we're going to screen on? And once we decide to do that, we have to be consistent across applicants. Now, if we make any deviations to that, that's okay. But what I do is I contact the owner and I say, well, this individual, they look pretty good, but they're a little bit under on these things. What do you think? And I never share the name of the individual for liability purposes. And what happened this weekend is we had one that it was a situation to where it wasn't income related, but it had to do with some issues in the past with late rent. And our owners took the position because it was such a long time ago that we were comfortable with that because we wanted to get the home rented and we felt the risk was a little less. Now, we still had calls on that house, but because of the economic situation that we were going through at the time, we felt it was better to get them in there, get the lease signed, get the security deposit, which we did, and then we can move on from there. So no, I do think that is going to be something we're going to have to consider, and we're going to have to just use good judgment and communication with that. But ultimately, we're still going to look at things that, if someone has a job problem during this crisis, it's one thing. But if there's stuff that came on before the crisis, then, we kind of have to look at that too, because there's going to be people, like with any situation, that may try to take advantage of the current situation we're in right now.
Okay. We just got a chat message here from Nate. That's a great question here, Nate. Is evictions, can they on the first no pay, or do they start posting notices? Would that be the more process handling type of way to go about it?
So, not to sound like a broken record, but this is why you should either work with a property manager right now or speak with and check in with your real estate attorney. Because I think not only, the law isn't fundamentally changing, but eventually these situations are going to end up in eviction court, and we don't know how the individual judge, justice of the peace, is going to treat these issues. There's the issue of where they're just not doing evictions right now, and a lot of that's for health and safety reasons. But the important thing to understand is, just because someone's not able to do an eviction does not relieve the fact that they owe money still. And so when I spoke earlier, I talked about how after I got off the call with our company, I called my broker in Fort Worth. That's where he's at. And he spoke a little bit about that. And he said that, in his opinion, and this was just his experience, he said that, if you get, and I've read in articles also, that if you think you're going to have to evict, you still should probably post the notices. You still should go along with the process as much as you can, because what's going to happen is when the courts open back up, whether they're not having evictions because the state said not to, or the locality said not to, or they're just not open, there's going to be a line that forms. And so, normally when you can do an eviction in 30 days, and sometimes around the holidays, it's 45 or 50, we don't know how long that's going to be. So if you've worked everything out and it's just not going to go there, keep up with your documentation, keep up with the postings if you get to that point. When they open up for you to file again, you can be ready to file, but the most important thing is throughout the whole thing, when I talked about things like forgiving the late fees, it's about documentation. Keep your documentation consistent, timely, save all of it, so that way when you're in an eviction situation, you go to the court, you're going to have justice of the peace people very tired, very irritable probably. I would be too. You have your documentation there and you're ready to move. That's the best advice.
Okay. Well, thanks for the information there, Troy. And final here, this is a question from Carl Roberts. And obviously, I know you've answered a lot of the question, but this, I think, is a really good question, which will lead to a closing statement, is what are the rental advantages of having property management? I myself can tell you is somebody else is asking these questions on my behalf. It's better to have a messenger. Thanks, Carl, for the question.
Well, I think, so when we're not prohibited, we're all independent franchisees. There's 5 other real property management companies here in Houston. We're just one of the 5. We get to rely on the system of the larger company. We have to be licensed realtors. I've taken the position that all I do is residential rental listing and property management. So I'm not out there selling real estate. I'm not doing anything. And the reason being is because I want to be very proactive when something comes up. Because I've learned that when you don't address problems because you're either tied up doing something else or you have another day job, that it gets that much more difficult to solve that problem the longer you wait. We get to kind of be first responders when it comes to property management problems. That's one of the biggest things you're going to get from a property manager that's doing things the right way. Now, I would still say you need to communicate with your property manager and let them know and follow up on what they're doing, because they're a service provider to you. But I do think that a good property manager is going to charge for their services, but they're going to do things for you that should get some of that money back for you. When it comes to listing, get that listing done quickly, get it priced right. All those little things should be ways that you get some money back on hiring a property manager. And then in most cases, it's tax deductible. So I think that's a wonderful question, Diego. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Troy, thank you so much for your time on this topic. I've gone ahead and in the chat sent all your contact information there. And also along later on, Enid, wave your hand there, Enid. She's our super girl at StratiVentures, is going to be sending you guys some follow-up information so you can have our speakers.
I appreciate it. One more thing. One thing that we got out of our company call the other day is now's a good time to connect with your realtor friends. So if you know realtors out there, with the issues with FHA and the lending and some of that tightening up, there might be some good opportunities out there on the MLS and in other situations. So now's a good time to reach out to those realtors that are doing buys and sells and get to kind of understand what they're doing. So definitely do that.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Now, Jim Green, let's go ahead and get you unmuted here.
Hey there.
Yes, sir. See you moving around a lot there. And I want to introduce everybody here to Jim Green. Jim Green came to us at StratiVentures one day and said, I've got something really neat to talk to you about when it came to remediation of smell, remediation of, certain factors of mold and things like that. And he sat down and said that it will save you money. And so I started listening to him, and he really showed us his platform. And I think this is something, according to today's local climate, that it would be worth taking a listen to, especially if you are a landlord, and also especially if you are thinking about getting into the rental business, because you're really going to need to know companies like these. So give me a second here. If you just now joined us, guys, please feel free to unmute yourself if we've got some background noise here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
All right, Jim. And his name is Jim Green with Green Air Technologies. Go ahead and take it away, sir. First, let us know what your company does and just talk about it.
So a few of you know us already, and you know us because we fix stinky houses. But we've also talked with several of you about preventing mold from future floods. But one of the biggest things you should probably know about right now is that we are authorized by the CDC because of the stuff that we use. We are authorized by them to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 and other viruses. So our clean air process, which is our machines, those were proven this week in the Journal of Virology to kill COVID-19. So if you have a home or business that has, you think may have been infected or may have been infected, that can last on surfaces for up to a week. So our process will kill that. But more importantly, what we've been getting a lot of calls about over the last 2 weeks, and what we've been doing a lot of now, is treating vacant homes that are getting ready to be moved into. So for you folks that are property managers, or if you have rentals that are vacant right now, and people are concerned about that for both showings and for both moving in, we can go in, and what we do is we use a hospital grade quaternary sanitizer, and we basically scrub all of the biofilm off of all the touchable surfaces in the house. And then we go through and we fog the house with our biosphere product, which basically gives you a 60 to 90 day protection on every surface in the house. So every knob, every fixture, counters, cabinets, everything. Those are going to remain bacteria static for a minimum of 60 days and up to 90 days. So if anybody's interested in getting a quote on that, we can certainly help you with that. And then we also will have hand sanitizer and wipes back in stock pretty soon as well. So that's really about it. So we, if anybody has these concerns, we can certainly help you. And if anybody has any questions, I'll take those right now.
Okay, Jim, I have a question here. Coming from your background and looking at your Facebook, you do have to go through a lot of meeting and sitting and chatting with people within the health organization, and most of all, a lot of municipalities. Your overall opinion in regards to the sanitation of what people do, are there any quick tidbits, because you're in the sanitation business, that we should all do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the biggest thing is, honestly, it's what you hear every single day, 20 times a day. Wash your damn hands. That's really the biggest part. Don't touch your face and maintain 6 feet of distance between people. And if you have to go out in public like we do, you see I've got my mask on. We're working on a job right now. I took a break to get on this meeting. but we're working on a house out in Bel Air, and when we get done, this house will be completely decontaminated. But if you do have to go out in public and you have an N95 mask, please wear it. Yes, these bigger ones like I'm wearing right now look goofy, but it may save your life. The only other thing that I could say is if you don't have to go out, don't go out. I know people are getting bored and everybody's run out of TV shows to watch, but this is the reality of the situation right now. And so, I think Texas is going to be better off than any of the other states, just because we are resilient and we get through these things. And I know we'll get through this. So, so once again, if anybody has any concerns, reach out to me and we'll explain our process to you.
Sure. Does anybody have any questions that you'd like to ask Jim in regards to the process? Go ahead, Tim.
Do you offer any services for cleaning Airbnb short-term rentals, or just primarily vacant homes?
No, we can go into Airbnbs and do the same thing that we do in a vacant home, and that will, once again, so the regimen that we recommend is that we come in, we scrub all the surfaces with the quaternary first, and then we apply the biosphere. And then that should last 60 to 90 days from the first treatment. And then if you're going to continue to have your Airbnbs open, we recommend that every 90 days you get this process done in the house, and then we can give you a certificate that you can even display in the house if you want to, saying that this house has been sanitized.
Okay.
So follow up to that then. So your disinfecting, sanitizing process, it would still last 60 to 90 days even with people in and out of the house, or is it?
Yes,
okay.
it does. So the 60 to 90 days. So basically the molecule that we use is the Aegis molecule. And it has been there's only two ways to get rid of the molecule. And the first way is through abrasion. And constant abrasion, we know that it lasts a minimum of 60 days and around 90 days.
Okay.
Now, surfaces that never get touched at all, the molecule will stay intact indefinitely on there and will kill indefinitely, because that's what it does.
So a surface is being applied that would kill any type of virus that is.
Yeah. So let's take, for instance, the blinds behind you. Okay. You never touch the blinds. You only touch that handle to close the blinds, right? Okay. So if the biosphere molecule is applied to those blinds, it's never ever going to wear off of there because you're never touching it. So the only other thing that we recommend also is that when we do a treatment in a place for you, stop using bleach products, okay? Because bleach is the only other thing that breaks our molecule. So you can use any non-bleach cleaner you want, and we can even supply you with biosphere cleaner so that every time you clean with it, you're actually reapplying molecule protectant as well.
Okay. Jim, Alana, one of the superstars there at the Loken Group asked, do you service the greater Houston, or what areas do you not service?
We service Southeast Texas. So basically from Austin down to Corpus and all the way out to Louisiana border, which we're not allowed to cross right now, I understand.
Okay.
Will you be able to do that soon?
I'm sorry?
Will you be able to do service in Louisiana soon?
We don't know, but I'm not really looking to expand into Louisiana. There's other companies out there that can take care of that. So I am not the only guy doing this. There's lots of janitorial companies that are taking on this role now. It just so happens that the product that's approved for use by the CDC, we have been using it ever since we started this company. So we already knew that it killed COVID-19. Now we have the proof of it. So any house that we have done in the past has gotten this treatment, no matter what we were there for. We always use this on every house.
So Jim, if you could walk us through somebody going into your, like you walking into their house, walk us, what should they be preparing themselves for? You know, like the scene in ET where all these guys come in there with these biohazards and take ET from this kid's house, or what are we talking about?
It's not far from that, but obviously we don't need to tent the whole house. We don't do that. We do come in wearing PPE, and the reason for that really is because if something's there, we don't want to pick it up, and if, God forbid, one of us was carrying something, but we're certain we're not, we don't want to transmit that either. So yes, when we come into your facility, we are going to be in PPE, not the full-blown ET costumes or anything like that. Those are really reserved for more chemical problems. So we do have those suits, but we don't like to wear them because they suck. So,
Okay.
but really what we do is we come in, we're gonna wipe down all the surfaces and remove all the biofilm from all the touch points in the house, and then we're gonna fog the place. And then an hour later, the house can be vacated or can be occupied again.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And Jenny Heyman asked this question: Is that biosphere cleaner available at retailers, or is that something directly through you?
It is not available to retailers. And normally it is a product that I sell because I am the Southeastern distributor for it. And we will have product back in stock to sell in a couple weeks. This thing caught everybody off of guard. So we do normally have wipes in stock. We have spray. We have a laundry additive. It's the same thing that Nike puts in their wear that they call antimicrobial. Mm-hmm. That it lasts 7 to 10 washes basically. So we recommend it for nurses and stuff and people that are going out into this, because this will keep the virus off the clothes. Okay. And then eventually, hopefully within 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have our 4-hour hand sanitizer back in stock as well.
Okay, that's great. We had Vanessa Duhan. She's the young lady that was in Louisiana, which is, we got Louisiana on board here with SVI.
All right.
How is the cost assessed towards your services? Is it per square foot? Is it per room?
It's by the square foot, and also we want to know if there has been any known virus or contaminated person in that space in the last 7 days. That's a major thing. The reason why we want to know that is because the virus can live on surfaces in the HVAC for up to a week, we understand. So if that's the case, we want to bring in our clean air machines and use them first. If the space has been vacant for more than 7 days, or if they know for a fact that there's been no contaminated person in there, then we can just do the biosphere service. So the basic difference is going to be about $500 difference. The first treatment on a place is going to be it's going to be basically 25 cents to 50 cents a square foot. And then at 5,000 square feet, it goes down to 20 cents a square foot. And then at 7,000, it goes down to 10 cents a square foot.
Okay, understood there. We had a question here. Enid, if you want to go ahead and unmute and ask that question that you had, please.
Okay. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Enid.
How you doing?
I am blessed.
Good, I hear that. So my question is this. So so we're hearing that the spread is getting, outrageous. And so let's say you have a family member in your home that is infected with COVID. And obviously they're going to have to quarantine themselves and stay in the room. Now, at this point, the house is infected, I'm assuming. Do you go in and disinfect the house for the other individuals and then come back at a later time once that individual has gotten better from the COVID and disinfect that room?
We can certainly do that, yes. So we haven't had an instance of that yet, but what we have been doing in the last couple of weeks, we've done 3 or 4 houses for cancer and surgery patients. They've been in the hospital, and the day before they return, we go into the house and we do sanitation on the house, as well as the biosphere treatment to protect them when they come home. Okay. So if somebody has it in the home, the best thing to do would be, yes, we can come in and sanitize the house and then go back and sanitize that room if need be. But we wouldn't be able to do the clean air treatment until that person was able to leave the house for a couple of hours.
Okay. Thanks, Jim, for that answer, and Enid, thanks for the question. Adriana, go ahead and unmute yourself. We're going now from humans to animals. Go ahead.
I know everyone's talking about Corona. I have a unit that it seems like a family of possums got into the attic. And,
Yay, my favorite.
Yeah, so there's we've gotten rid of the possums, but there still seems to be a smell that has not gone away. I just told them, hey, it must be a rat or something that they brought in that died. And we've looked in the attic, there's nothing in the attic, but there still seems to be a smell in just one room. Is there something we can do, or do we have to tear down the walls and find whatever it is?
So first off, we do need to figure out what the smell is. And generally what I like to do is I like to go over to the house and check it out for myself. And because I've got a pretty good nose and I can identify what the smell is. If it turns out that I believe that it's protein decomp, as in a dead animal inside a wall, then we got to figure out, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use an infrared camera to see if we can find exactly where that's located. Because I like, even though I'm a Marine and we were trained to break shit and kill people, pardon my French, I don't like to cause destruction in people's houses if I don't have to. So with that camera, we can use that to pinpoint. But if we don't find it via the camera, that's when we have to, take our best guess and start opening up walls. And at that point, then when we find it, we remove it and we completely decontaminate the area. And because that animal was in contact with those materials that we removed, you're going to want to have those removed anyway and replace those. Okay.
And on average, in my past, when a rat has died inside my personal house when I was growing up, it was just like 2 or 3 weeks of the smell, and then it just kind of went away. We never did anything about it. Is that still the case, or this has been going on for months?
Here's the problem: if it's a possum, they're large and they stink, and as we get warmer here, it's going to get worse. And the problem is that hydrogen sulfide, which is the gas that comes off of protein decomposition, it's just nasty stuff. It gives people headaches. It makes them nauseous. And so if this is one of your rentals, you really want to get this taken care of as fast as possible so you don't have any further liability on your hands.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Adriana. David, you had a question. David Gutierrez.
Yes, sir. Jim, I was wondering, what would you recommend for a dwelling that has been sitting there for more than a couple of months? Do you think it should be desanitized or something?
Well, in those kind of cases, what we just recommend is doing our clean air treatment most of the time. We just come in, we run the machines. Generally, we'll do, depending on how bad it is, we'll run them for 6 to 8 hours or maybe even overnight. And that way, that'll get rid of the smell from it just sitting, because a lot of houses just, they get a little musty. And that mustiness is mold. Some people go, oh, it's just a little mustiness. No, it is mold. So you want to make certain that you get rid of that. So our process, while it doesn't physically remove any of that, it does kill it all. It destroys it. So it can't come back in that particular form. So basically, and once we do that, then we always do the biosphere treatment. So the house will be, will be antiviral at that point as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You bet.
Great question there, David. Somebody asked, do you also do it for vehicles?
We do also do vehicles. Yes, we have a little bit different method depending on what the problem is. But yeah, most vehicles are $100, $150.
Okay. All right. We're coming into 10 minutes. Timothy and Cassandra, go ahead and ask.
How far out are you scheduling appointments?
Right now, so I'm asking everybody if they could at least give me a 48-hour notice if possible. But almost every call that we've been taking over the last couple of weeks is, how soon can you be here? And most of them were there within 8 hours. So, I might put you off for 24 or 48 hours. But if you do have that leisure, then I like to have 48 hours.
Okay, good deal.
But we are now a 24/7 company because we do crime scene cleanup. So if you want to pay an emergency call for me to come out in the middle of the night and do it, sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's not to cover up the killing that you just did. It's
Right. So,
not-
and
Yeah,
I don't
there's a
remove
disclosure
bodies.
there. Yeah. Well, Jim, thank you so much for your information. I hope everybody
you.
got good information from our two speakers. In the chat, I just sent you all the contact information for everybody. I also want to thank everybody that's continually joining us. Our groups have been getting larger, so I hope all the information that we're bringing on is really good for everybody to learn. This coming week, we're going to be bringing on some more speakers in order to give us some more insight. So don't forget, guys, Mondays and Fridays from 12 to 1 is going to be all of our public SVI special forums like we're doing right now. So I would like if everybody to get to know us a little bit better. This is our QR code. If you guys want to go ahead and take a picture of that with your phones, if possible, if you got it, or we'll be happy to send that to you. It's the best way to find us, and we love to get feedback. We'd love to find out if we can bring other speakers on there. Most of all, we'd love to get to know every single one of you because we want to strengthen the value of StratiVentures and make sure we work with the right investors. Our investor base is everywhere from lenders. We have direct contractors, real estate services. All of that is in-house. Private money lending. So if you guys want to know more information about us, please follow us or give us a call on the information that I posted there. And we definitely look forward to seeing more of you guys on our next session. So my name is Diego. Enid, wave your hand real quick. That's the young lady that be answering your calls, or call me directly. I'm always an open book of information and love working with people. And I hope to see you guys on our next session, which is going to be Friday at 12. So everybody stay safe and do things that are productive while you're at home.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a great
you.
day, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a great one, guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Be safe, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. I'm not leaving.